Please understand that this video is not made for laughs, unlike my other content. When did you watch someone's sanity slowly deteriorate? It was not really all that slow, but I watched my mother slip from genius-level intelligence into a drooling brain-dead shell within 6 months when she died from CJD. It was the worst thing I have ever seen, and I have seen the terrors and atrocities of war. I'm so sorry this happened to your mother. Are you in the UK? I know that's the most common place for CJD. I liked hearing about your mom. It sounds like she was an incredible person. You're completely justified in bragging about your mom. It sounds like the world lost a bright spark of joy when she passed away. Thanks for telling us a little bit about her. I'm glad you got to share about your mom a little. I liked reading about her. Wow, it sounds like she sure packed a ton of adventure into her life. I'm sorry for your loss. Yes, it is. I'm not sure if they still do this, but as of a few years ago you couldn't donate blood in the US if you'd spent more than 6 months living in the UK. Seems to be if you spent 3 months in the UK between 1980 and 1996. It's in relation to mad cow disease, which becomes a variant of CJD when passed to humans through eating infected meat. Wow, I'd never heard that before, and I live in the UK. My mom started going to online blogs and web radio shows about ghosts, aliens, conspiracies, and took it all at face value. I saw my normal mom turn into a complete gullible ignoramus in a matter of months. Nobody could talk to her without her bringing up FEMA death camps, potential economic collapse, aliens, anti-vaxxer Obama signing more executive orders than any president in history. Her friends thought she might have a brain tumor. She didn't. She did have cancer she was hiding, ignoring that ended up killing her. She thought cancer wasn't real. This is what happens to lonely people that are looking for a connection. They'll believe anything just to feel that they are a part of something. It was very sad that she was so unbearable the last couple years of her life. We are seeing this on a grand scale with COVID. People denying to their last breath. Oh, I've definitely heard of COVID denial, but never cancer denial. There is every kind of denial, and in my experience, the worse the reality is, the worse the denial can be. My husband watched a man emerge from his home, barely able to walk, talk, gray-skinned, having clearly had a stroke. He insisted he would walk off, in denial that he was essentially dying in front of our eyes. Cancer is often invisible until the end, and denial can set in even harder in the meantime. Never underestimate it. There was a magazine run by HIV/AIDS denialists for other HIV/AIDS denialists, but it ceased publication because all of its editors died of AIDS. I worked in a care facility for people who suffer from dementia. This was a very rewarding and enjoyable job, but at times it could be confronting and sad, as you'd expect. One story that stuck with me was this lady who'd write in her booklet and always left it open. She didn't care to keep it a secret or anything, but I would make sure to keep personal possessions private as much as I could while cleaning the rooms. So I'd close the little book and put it in her desk where she could find it. It's something I could relate to. I have my own little books and enjoy writing as well, and appreciate it when people respect my privacy. I wouldn't read the contents, but I saw the phrases go from sentences to repeated words to scribbles. Eventually, she became too confused to put pen to paper. Opening and closing the booklet, carefully touching the paper, but she couldn't quite figure it out anymore. Eventually giving up. This really hit home to me, as I knew how therapeutic it could be to organize your thoughts on paper. I write when I'm sad or overwhelmed. The thought of her being unable to when she might have needed the outlet still stings. This hit close to home. Dad had Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. He went from writing random sentences to words, two things that didn't make any sense, until he forgot how to hold a pencil. That's rough. Sorry to hear that happened to someone close to you. Those practical things are so confronting. That is such a rare disease. How was it diagnosed? If you don't mind me asking, there is a terrifying theory that prion disease is much more common than we think, but because it is so similar to other very common neurodegenerative diseases, it goes underreported. Right now it is hard to know for sure. There's also research that suggests that Alzheimer's is at least partially prion disease. Interesting. Oh man, I don't think enough studies are done on the effect that constant pain has on the human brain. People talk about depression and mood swings, but there's not a whole lot of talk about how bad it can really get. This hit close to home. Dad had Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. He went from writing random sentences to words, two things that didn't make any sense, until he forgot how to hold a pencil. It's rough. Sorry to hear that happened to someone close to you. Those practical things are so confronting. That is such a rare disease. How was it diagnosed? If you don't mind me asking, there is a terrifying theory that prion disease is much more common than we think, but because it is so similar to other very common neurodegenerative diseases, it goes underreported. Right now it is hard to know for sure. There's also research that suggests that Alzheimer's is at least partially prion disease. Interesting. I agree. I had no idea because I'm lucky enough to have no idea. I have experienced some extra dark places because of my pain, but thankfully not anything where I was totally gone. I have definitely had mental health crises, though. Pain just invades every single aspect of your life, and it's utterly inescapable. It's understandable that it might screw with brain chemistry over time. I'm in a similar boat, though at times I do think I was gone. At my worst, I've had auditory hallucinations. These eased off completely once my pain was back under control though. I've had fight or flight kick in when my pain was severe and not under control. Pain makes you crazy, especially when it doesn't stop, because often your brain learns to filter out the actual sensation, but not all the physiological reactions to it. I have a friend who was going to shoot herself in the spine to paralyze herself, so she couldn't feel the pain that she's experiencing, because the VI has given up on her. She ended up being stopped by her caretaker and shot the wall instead, and now she's found a way to deal. Medical marijuana. I'm glad it works for her pain. That's a great way to describe it. My partner has a genetic condition that causes constant terrible pain. I know more about human suffering and reactions to it than I would like to, just from how she explains the various ways she hurts and the ways her brain and body react unhelpfully. My sister passed away earlier this year, and she was sick for a long time. During the last few months you could tell that it was becoming harder for her to think and respond. Paradoxically, it actually made her a lot nicer to me. We had never had a great relationship and I always believed she hated me, but during those last few months she said very few unkind things to me. It was hard to know that the only time we ever really got along was right before she passed away. My sister also died 5 years ago, and we didn't always get on either. I like to think that we both knew that petty differences didn't matter, so overcoming them and making positive memories for each other were the greater good in the end. XX 7 years for my sis. We had gone a year without speaking till my mum rang me from the hospital to say the doctors are worried and saying she might have a brain tumor. I was there for her, and the 6 months she spent fighting it were the closest we'd been since we were kids. I was living elsewhere at the time, but I heard about what happened to my friend. He was fairly normal. A little exceptional actually, as he was being scouted to get sponsored for skateboarding, something he was very good at. He started acting really weird though. Things like opening his door just a bit when people came over and laughing at them. Throwing chairs and such around when at people's houses. Lying about things that were really obvious. Reading loudly from the Bible while wearing almost nothing outside in the middle of winter. Turns out he was schizophrenic. Last time I saw him was after I moved back and was living in a bad neighborhood. He was homeless, as was his dad who was with him. He didn't even recognize me, just acted really scared that I was trying to talk to him. No one has seen or heard from him since then. I'm the last person to have seen him. That was 10 years ago. Ouch. That sucks. I'm sorry for your friend. I watched my ex-wife slowly spiral down, and I didn't even realize it. She was never really stable and had a family history of mental illness. Apparently she started cheating on me and never had the strength to tell me or get a divorce, and the constant lying and being on edge that I would find out at any minute really got to her. This was over the course of a year. Towards the end she would rock every time she sat and bit her nails till they bled. Currently she is maxed out on a host of meds, and it takes everything she has to got to work as a janitor and come home. Her father is her guardian and helps her pay bills and stuff. She often denies past events or alters them. If they were unpleasant, she is very adamant that they are real. Her father broke down and told me this a month ago and actually recommend that I not encourage our kids to visit her. I would never prevent them from seeing their mother. So in the course of 5 years she went from a fit dental hygienist with a promising career and host of friends to an overweight janitor with no friends who can't even pay her own rent or buy groceries. I do admire her for going to work every day and trying. You seem kind and forgiving. One day your children will be grateful for your example. The strength there is amazing. To go through that and not hate the person but be reflective enough to somehow empathize is amazing. Could the cheating be a part of the mental illness? Sometimes hypersexuality is a symptom. You sound more negative than he does. She cheated on him, lost her job, her father is struggling to supervise her, and he doesn't think she's fit to see the kids, but she still attempts to work, and he has forgiven her and makes sure she sees her kids. I would say lay off.